Welcome, I'm Petula, Alicia. This is Morning Coffee and Inspirational Words. This morning, I want to ask you guys a question. The question is, how big is your giant? Yep. What giant am I talking about? I have a quote from Spiritual Inspiration. The quote is, "You may be up against a giant today, but don't focus on how big your giant is. Focus on how big your God is." Are you facing a giant of a problem, obstacle, or challenge this morning? Are you focused on how big that problem, obstacle, or challenge is, and that's all you can see how big it is? What I like about this quote is that it talks about not focusing on how big that giant problem, obstacle, or challenge is, but to focus on the fact that our God is bigger than that giant problem, obstacle, or challenge. Personally, right now in my life, I am facing a giant challenge. And initially, when I started looking at my giant challenge, I felt like this tiny little person, and that problem was so big and beyond me. But my giant problem, challenge, obstacle is not bigger than my God. And that is the thing that encourages me and inspires me about this quote, because it reminds me that I have a giant problem, obstacle, or challenge. However, my God is gigantic. The problem might be giant, but my God is gigantic. My God is way bigger and way more powerful than any problem, obstacle, or challenge I'm facing right now. So what started off as a daunting situation and somewhat a little depressing turned around for me when I started to go to God and focus on praying and talking to Him. And before I made this video, I kept praying and asking Him, what do I share today? How do I encourage my friends today? What am I going to share with them, Lord? Give me a word to share. Give me a quote. Give me something. And I believe that He gave me this quote. And again, this quote is by Spiritual Inspiration. "You may be up against a giant today, but don't focus on how big your giant is. Focus on how big your God is." And that's basically what I'm doing right now. I'm focusing on how big my God is, because based on past experience and past results, my God has gotten me through much more challenging and problematic times than I'm having now. And yes, this particular challenge that I'm having, this giant challenge that I'm having, means that I'm going to have to ask myself some really life-altering and life-changing questions and weigh the pros and the cons, because the answers to those questions will result in me having to make some very vital changes in my life. So it's not hard to get overwhelmed when you think of it in those terms. But when I look at this quote, when I read this quote, when I internalize this quote and really meditate on it, it takes me right back to my God. And it gives me that peace and that understanding that only He can give me during such an emotionally charged and challenging time. So if you have a big giant of a problem, obstacle, or challenge in your life right now, know that you're not alone. I am facing my own challenges right now. And not only that am I here to encourage you and motivate you and let you know that you're not alone. I'm also going through the same thing, but I'm here to say that God is also there with you and for you. And if you dare to reach out to Him and dare to ask Him and listen to him, he will be able to help you slay your giant. I say slay because remember David and Goliath. David was the tiny human being, Goliath was the big old giant, and David just had a slingshot. But because of his faith and his belief in God, he was able to slay his giant. So today, we are going to slay our giant problem, obstacle, or challenge. I totally believe that. Why? Because we have a gigantic God who will not leave or forsake us. So today, be inspired, be encouraged that your giant problem, your giant obstacle, your giant challenge is not bigger than you or your God. And let me leave you with the quote: by spiritual inspiration, you may be up against a giant today, but don't focus on how big your giant is. Focus on how big your God is. I think that is the most awesome and inspiring quote I've done. One of the most, but I think it is the most that I've done so far, because God has never let me down or disappoint. So please share with me what your giant challenge, obstacle, or problem is. Please send suggestions, send requests, make your comments. I would love to hear from you. I am Petula Alicia. I am honored that you took the time to join me for coffee. And on this Monday morning, where some of us are still stuck indoors because of the snow and we are unable to get transport or anything to work because of the snow, I just want to encourage you to have a safe and restful day. For those of us who have been able to get out of our house and return to work and all of that, remember to be your awesome selves and go out and do incredible things today. Have a fabulous day.